Hello, my friends. How are you today? I'm sorry I'm a little slow getting a new video blog out to you. I'm recovering from a mild case of pneumonia. So if I cough a little bit doing this, don't hold it against me. Also, I wanted to remind you to please subscribe to this site. It will help me gain traction in YouTube and maybe earn some income from it. In addition, speaking of earned income, if you would like to help me in my work, please go to the Patreon site, which I have listed down below, so that you can make a monthly pledge that will enable me to still have a voice and to make a living and not be evicted. And that would be real nice, and I appreciate it a lot. Today's topic is it's time to tax the fucking churches. Now, so we don't get carried away, there are people who believe that $1 trillion of income can come in from taxing churches and religious institutions. That's just way off base. Let's keep it realistic. The conservative estimates that I can come up with that make sense is in taxable income, about 2.4 billion could be raised in taxes, which, by the way, would pay for the entire food stamp program in the United States. But that doesn't count the taxes that we would save on property taxes. The Catholic Church alone is the third largest landowner in the world, right up there with the King of Saudi Arabia and, believe it or not, Queen Elizabeth. So if churches were required to pay property taxes on the properties they own, then we're dealing at the state level with hundreds of tens of millions of dollars. So it is an income generator, and they have used those, by the way, those taxes on real estate, not to pay, to buy massive land holdings around the world and in the United States. One time, Watergate was owned by the Catholic Church. Hardly anyone could claim that was a religious institution. But let's talk about this. Everyone says the First Amendment, separation of church and state. Absolutely couldn't agree more. But that did not say anything about financing churches and state. That came from a powerful, in the early stages after our founding fathers and their wisdom put it in the Constitution, from people who lobbied to have it in so they could get on the gravy train. The fact of the matter is, by not taxing churches, let's forget about today, for example. By not enabling them to pay taxes and enabling them to spread their gospel and to build their power with no taxes to have to pay, actually is not the separation of church and state. The government should not be giving economic advantage to any religious institution. By giving them an economic advantage, we are seeing in today's world that, forget their political involvement, which is heavy these days. In today's world, they're using that tax-exempt fund as a minority to dictate to others what my life should be, whether I'm allowed to have choice in my life or gay marriage. They can go on and use their platforms, buy television time, do interviews, taking very controversial positions on choice and gay marriage, and I end up paying for it because the less taxes they pay for, the more taxes I have to pay to cover the cost of running this nation. So I'm literally underwriting these churches in their horrible lifestyle religious services. I mean, I don't want to pay and subsidize people who are trying to take my rights away or telling a woman she can't control her body. And those are just minor examples. I mean, we have churches in Texas now calling for the death penalty if you're gay, or a death penalty for a woman if she makes a choice to terminate a pregnancy. It's insane. There's no way in the world that I should have to be picking up a bigger burden of taxes to pay for people to attack me. That is the real separation of church and state, that I should not have to be forced to subsidize religious institutions by giving them the benefit to become major corporations, paying outlandish benefits for its executives, so to speak, to dictate their lifestyle to the rest of us in America. America has always been about libertarian principles of the power of the individual. And here we have this collective group of religious institutions telling us how we must live our lives. Now, let's just get it clear. The First Amendment, really, if you read it right, means that churches should pay taxes. That the separation of church and state doesn't mean that they get preferences. That they should be treated equally. All religions, all people, including atheists, should have to bear the same burden. Now, we also know today that so many churches, both liberal and conservative, but especially the Pentecostal churches, the mega churches, aren't even pretending not to be political institutions. And they're telling their congregations how to vote. They launch registration drives. They have slates to tell them who to vote for. They do ads on issues that aids different candidates. They take positions that are just simply outrageous. If you read some of them, like, no abortion in case of rape and incest, all we have to do is think about that horrible incident in Ohio with the 10-year-old girl who was raped and made pregnant. But that's not an isolated incident. This is something we've known that's been going on a long time. Incest and rape, and especially with young kids, 14, 15, 10 is shocking. So it is important. Now, we could raise conservative $2 to $2.5 billion in taxes if we tax the income and the revenue of churches. We could raise even more by property taxes, especially on lands that have nothing to do with churches. I don't want to pay for the parking lots, the massive lands, or their recreation areas, or a place to have their Starbucks in their religious institutions. That shouldn't fall upon our shoulders. But what really shouldn't fall on our shoulders are the scam artists, the Joel Osteens of this world, who clean their act, dress well, come on Larry King and say, we shouldn't have the right to marriage, that gay people are living in sin and should not be extended the rights as other American citizens. Who, has their private jet. He makes $100 million a year. You thank us because we're helping to pay that. He has 2 massive mansions. He has private planes. His wife and him go on huge shopping sprees in New York City. Excuse me. But he is not the wealthiest. Kenneth Copeland makes almost $1 billion a year, has 3 planes, and couldn't be more political and more active, and violate the concept of the tax exemption law for philanthropy. Hell, Joe Epstein wouldn't even open up his church for victims of Katrina when they were asked him to, which is probably the most important thing Jesus would have done. Jesus would have been in that massive dome that he owns, making beds, bathing people. So, I mean, even in the worst of times, they don't even respond anymore. They don't even try. They don't make donations. They don't help. They'll claim that they have these programs within the church, but let me tell you, some churches have done amazing work in working with the poor. Some synagogues have done amazing work in human rights. I'm not trying to paint everyone with a broad brush here, but it's not up for me to decide, or the IRS to decide, who's good and who's bad. The fact of the matter is, anyone involved in church work should be taxed. And if they say, oh, well, our good work should be not be taxed, well, then if they give money directly to institutions that are feeding the poor and stuff, they can take it off their taxes. But what we're doing is we are having massive amounts of revenue. And let's look at it. These religious institutions and their executives are no more than massive corporations anymore. You and I are subsidizing it. And so the time has come. I'm not optimistic that it's going to happen. Let me be real clear. But we should be thinking about it, and we should be talking about it, because these people are destroying my life. They're making it necessary not only that I subsidize their work, but I have to spend a lot of money to protect my basic rights. And as they say back home, that just ain't right. Don't forget to subscribe at the bottom. Look at the Patreon link, because I could need your help. I really could use it. And I love and adore you all. Peace.